What up guys, it is Justice here, and this video covers the Ascension bolts, the Araxyte Arrows versus the Dragonbane Bolts and Arrows, paying close focus and attention to the weapons that I'm using in my loadouts and the ammo that I'm using. So yep, hope you enjoy this video. Okay, so right at the beginning I'm going to compare the loadouts just to get the actual facts of the base ability damages of each of the different setups. That will then tell us straight away, okay, which one's going to be better. Then I've done 6 hours worth of testing just to back up that. Just to get a sense whether those figures actually do reflect reality when fighting the QBD. Okay, so why are we talking about using an offhand level 70 weapon here? How the heck is that better than 2 tier 90 dual Ascension crossbows? Well, I'm going to explain how, and we're going to look at the base ability damage on the loadout screen, and we're going to also have to take into consideration the plus 25% damage boost that the Dragonbane bolts inflict. Another thing quickly just to put in there is that offhand weapons do not affect accuracy. That only comes from your main hand weapon, which is why we're allowed to input a level 70 weapon into the mix here. It will not impact the accuracy. The best scenario here would actually be offhand Death Lotus darts with a main hand crossbow with Dragonbane bolts. However, I do not have Death Lotus darts from player on port yet, so my next best scenario really is the Crystal Chikaram. The better scenario would be to have an attuned Crystal Chikaram, which is a level 80 weapon, but you do need to get the attuned Crystal Seed and go to Eluned to obviously get that transformed into a weapon. But that is an extremely rare item to get, or it's a rare item to get at least, and I only had the normal Crystal Seed at the moment, but still, a level 70 offhand Crystal Chikaram with a main hand Ascension crossbow you will find in this video is in fact better than dual Ascensions. Okay, so to start off you might be wondering, why don't I have an offhand Ascension crossbow with Dragonbane bolts? Well, when you wear an offhand throwing weapon, you actually get an increased damage output when using Dragonbane bolts because you will see your base ability damage raising. So if I take out and replace my Crystal level 70 Chikaram right now, as you can see on screen, for an offhand Ascension tier 90 crossbow, you will notice the base ability damage will in fact go down. Okay, now it's time to crunch numbers between these two setups. Okay, so I've also thrown the Nox longbow into the mix here as well. The calculations on the right hand side, they are worked out from the base ability damage, which you can get that number from the loadout which you saw earlier on. So the dual Ascensions plus Ascension bolts, that equals 1977 base ability damage. All these numbers as well, this is relevant for when you're using Revolution or full manual mode on Evolution of Combat. Dual Ascensions plus the Dragonbane bolts, that equals 1931 damage. So as you can see from this, if you're solely just using dual Ascension crossbows, then the tier 90 ammo is in fact better than Dragonbane bolts, or deals more damage over time. The 25% boost, by the way, that comes from the Dragonbane special effect that it has. Whilst using abilities, it increases the damage by 25%. Nox longbow plus Araxyte Arrows, 1976 damage. Nox longbow plus Dragonbane Arrows equals 1930 base damage. Now to the main setup, which is my current setup, is the main hand Ascension crossbow plus an offhand Crystal Chikaram, level 70 this is by the way, plus Dragonbane bolts equals 1593 base damage, plus the hidden 25% boost onto that. It boosts it up to 1991.25 base ability damage, which as you can see is 14.25 more base ability damage than the second highest setup here, which is dual Ascension plus Ascension bolts. So that is the best current setup for me at QBD. And if you just think, if you've got the opportunity to actually get an attuned Crystal Chikaram or offhand Death Lotus darts, then it's going to deal even more damage, it's going to be even more consistent. There is another option, such as the Blisterwood stakes, which you can get, which are level 70, but you'll see an issue which I came across here when I first tried them out. Alright guys, so I spent a little bit of time getting the Blisterwood stakes, but the actual draw distance of when using them does slow down the kill speed. I'm getting around 1 minute 40 second kills with Blisterwood stakes as my offhand weapon. You'll see why, because the draw distance is 5 squares. Let's show you. Overload up, get my super anti-fire on, whack it on. So you have to be pretty close to QBD, so this is not going to be any perfect kill, I'm just using Revolution to show you. So whack that on as well. Okay. So I'll go over here now, and when I click QBD, as you can see, I can't attack until I get about this distance, which is very, very close. With the Nox staff or the Nox longbow, you can stand all the way over here in the corner, which I'm right clicking, so you can stand really close to the pillars. Now that isn't a necessity, but this draw distance just is too close to QBD. Okay, so if you make your way over to Eluned with a crystal weapon seed, Eluned can attune that weapon seed into a range melee or magic weapon, so I'm attuning it into a chakram offhand range throwing weapon. This is a level 70 offhand range weapon, and if you get the attuned crystal weapon seed, which is rarer basically than the normal one, then you can make a level 80 offhand chakram. Okay, so I'm going to head off to the QBD now and try out the crystal chakram. As you can see, I'm at the QBD right now, and my kills were very consistent. I used this setup for around 3 hours at the QBD. All of my kills, no kills went above 145 to be honest. Every single kill was below that consistently. Majority of them were hitting 130, 131, and that's actually about the same speed as my record time whilst using the knock staff, not being on a Slayer task, so that's quite interesting. But the main thing which I felt from this was just the consistency. The hits were very big. The draw distance of Crystal Chakram is 7 squares as well, which is the same as the Ascension crossbow, and it's another 2 on top of the Blisterwood stake, so it is better in terms of the draw distance as well. But yeah, the kill speeds were very smooth, consistent. Comparing to, let's say, when you use a magic setup, QBD, there's a chance will become vulnerable to or will become more defensive against magic attacks, and therefore you do risk getting up to like 2-minute kill speeds every so often. So that is a huge drawback of using a mage setup. So again, definitely Dragonbane Bolts and my Crystal Chakram setup was very consistent, and it just felt smoother there at the QBD, to be honest. Now yes, when you're just looking at like individual kills, it really doesn't make a massive difference. If you use offhand Death Lotus darts, however, you probably knock off about 5 or so seconds, which is pretty decent, or very decent to be honest, in like individual kills. But the main thing to point out here is the long-term benefit, the impact it's going to have on if you're doing hundreds upon hundreds of kills. This is about consistency. Dragonbane Bolts provide that consistency when you wield an offhand throwing weapon at level 70 or level 70 or above. That's what it provides, and you will see the benefits in the long term, not in the short term, but after you've done hundreds of kills. That consistency, it will feel smoother. You're not going to risk having a 2-minute kill or anything. It's very consistent, and that's how I felt when using it. I couldn't beat my record with the Crystal Chakrams, however, because with magic you do have that capability of setting records. So that is one thing which using Dragonbane Bolts isn't really going to offer you. If you want to go out for like record kills, then you're best using either a melee or a magic, because that will out DPS it if you're lucky, as in with RNG, or if you're on a Slayer task. So yeah, and also if QBD becomes vulnerable to magic, then obviously you're going to DPS a lot more. So that, you have to take that into consideration. Do not use Dragonbane Bolts if you want record kills. They are for consistent kills. I then decided to use the Nox longbow, and some people may prefer this method because it does make it easier in terms of the draw distance. You're right next to the pillars, and so you can stand really far away from QBD. But yeah, I'm going to wrap this video up here, guys. Be sure to leave any of your findings at the QBD whilst using Dragonbane Bolts in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in my next video or live stream. Good luck on your PVM trips.